So, doing a little bit of research for this episode, and we're going to talk about dreams today.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with exploding head syndrome?
What?
Yeah, so when a man and a woman love each other very, very much. Welcome back to the Duck Boys,
Boys
podcast.
I'm Tristan.
I'm Sam. And
We're gonna be
on
talking about
today's, exploding heads. On today's episode, we're going to be talking, and we're going to enter the ethereal world of dreams, the distant cousin of death.
God,
Yeah, so we're
my
going to talk
ears in
about
editing.
no, completely capped out on my end. I don't know if you hear it at all. In the background, I was just like nothing. Anywho, in case you're gripping the edge of your seat right now, wondering what is exploding head syndrome, it's actually right when you're falling asleep. Have you ever had that sensation where you feel like you're falling and you like startle up real fast?
Yeah.
Imagine that, but instead of falling, it's the loudest noise you've ever heard in your life, and it's all inside your head.
That's so fucking crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's what exploding head syndrome is. And apparently, according to this article that I found through Sleep Medicine, I don't know how, what kind of
Credibility
report that has. According to Sleep Medicine, it affects roughly 10% of people. So if you happen to be watching this and you're like, oh shit, that happens to me, let us know.
I feel like
additionally, let us know about any other weird dream shit that happens, because we'll be talking about a lot of weird dream shit today.
Yeah. So if you know us personally, and you're listening to this on Spotify, go ahead and bring it up to us. Either DM us on the Duck Boys YouTube page, which is at or not YouTube page. Instagram page, which is at Duck Boys YT. Or if you do have our number or something like that, text us. But
carrier pigeon.
Yeah, whatever like works. That. But if you're watching this on YouTube, first off, hi. Secondly, comment below, and I know I hate to sound like a YouTuber, but like we are YouTubers, and it helps with the algorithms. But yeah, before we get on to the rest of the podcast, I would like to talk about just how our days went, because this is probably going to get really deep. We're not on anything other than I have alcohol, but other than that,
I'm on protein. I'm on the good shit.
So Sam, how'd your day go?
It went well. I had a real short shift at work. It was busy, but it made it go by even faster.
Yeah.
Had some little bits here and there this morning. I got a new camera bag. I ordered it like a month and a half ago, and it's really exciting because it fits all of my camera equipment in one place, so I don't have to like have it weirdly packed in different bags. It's very nice.
Is it the one that my buddy Josh recommended to you?
Same brand, but it's actually a size up from that.
Oh, shit.
I managed to find a size up for a lot cheaper too, which was really nice. It was a little suspicious how cheap it was, but it came intact, and it is the brand.
It's so far still intact.
I'm not asking more questions that I don't want answers to. So that was that made for a good day. And then I also have an interesting lead on perhaps some voice stuff. I won't get too far into that, but very exciting developments. So,
yeah. If anything happens between now and the filming of next podcast, hopefully you can show us what's going on or give us a little update.
Perhaps I can share a little bit more at that time. But right now, you will have to wait.
Yeah.
Tristan, how was your day? What'd you do?
Pretty good. Before I get into my day, speaking of next podcast, if you tell us interesting stories about your dreams, we will share them with your permission on our podcast for next week. be at the very
Yeah.
beginning so we can kind of touch back on it and review about your thoughts and our thoughts. So comment on YouTube or send us text, DM, whatever, um, and we'll talk about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
my week, or not my week, my day. So this morning I went to go work out. My cousin's here. My 17-year-old cousin is here. Uh, she is about to graduate high school, and I told her, I was like, you know what, for your spring break, come up here and experience what college is really like midterms. This week is Addie and my midterms, so it's a lot of us studying and just seeing campus somewhat lively, as lively as it can get during COVID times. um, and she's really been enjoying it. We have a spare room here at the apartment, and so she's just been chilling with us. So that's been a lot of fun. But today, Addie and I think earlier on one of our earlier episodes, I announced that we're moving in together. Um, and so today we went house hunting. We went house hunting, and uh, it was pretty. It was weird because it felt very adult. We're only in our early 20s, and we're looking at least renting a house together, like an actual house. Like we were talking to realtors, and it's really, really weird. But of course, very nice. It's with somebody that I love and care for, and we're looking for a two-bedroom just because, just in case something happens, or at least we just want our own room. Um, we will have our own room. Plus, she has a cat. I have my dog. My dog doesn't get along with many things, and so it's a nice getaway for the cat from my dog. And then the third place will kind of bring us to our main topic today. I I just had this like funny feeling, like right as I pulled up, I was like, there's something about this house that I don't like. I don't know what it was. So you enter through a like a green room, right? And like a sunroom.
Okay.
And Addie had Felicity, and the realtor um was like going into the place and like unlocking it, and then my cousin was right behind her, and they walk in, and I had to like I think I had to get something from the car or something, so I was a little bit later, and Felicity would not go in without me. And she's very loyal to me, so it didn't like set off too many alarms, but like it was more of I don't want to go in. Like it was less I miss dad and I want to go in with dad, and more of I need to go in with dad.
Okay.
And so that was like red flag number one. I walk in, and it's a nice house. Definitely like it's an old house, that's for sure. But remodeled, and it looks really nice. But it just immediately, maybe it was just like the low ceilings and you could tell that it was old kind of thing, but it just gave me the creeps like from the get-go. Um, and so I'm talking to the realtor, and Felicity is right next to me like the whole time. At some point, I let her loose, and she goes and just starts kind of venturing around. And pretty much after every room, she comes over to me and like sits by me and like looks up at me, like almost like wanting my attention. And I pet her and I tell her, like, okay, go, go explore. And she goes. And again, another room comes back, whatever. There's this back room that used to be, I don't know, maybe a garage or something, like, or maybe just an expanded addition to the house. Um, and it was just weird. Like you step down into it, and like it was like brick and mortar, and it was just really, really weird. And it's where your washer and dryer was. And I remember because like you enter it through the kitchen. It was technically the third bedroom because it has a closet, and the closet was like sketch. Like it was barely a closet. It was more of a janitor's closet than it was a closet, right? And so I was standing near the doorway from like the living room area to the kitchen, and like I remember like I was expecting somebody, like while the realtor and my cousin were in the kitchen with me, and Addie was exploring the other side of the house. A part of me like expected somebody to walk like just in the in that back room. Like I could just feel somebody
Okay.
was over there. Like I don't know if you've ever had that sensation of like there's somebody else here other than the people who are here. Um,
Yeah.
and it was just a very odd feeling. And Felicity, anytime Felicity went into the room, first off, she would only go in with me, like into that back room. She would only go in with me, and she would like stray away from me. But she was always looking out the windows, and she doesn't really do that. Like she was like peeking over the windows, or at least attempting to. And it was just weird. She was just behaving very oddly. Then Addie said, was like, "Hey, Tristan, come over here." Like to the other side of the house. And she was like, "Look how big this bathroom is." And then she started pointing to me that there's locks on the inside of the doors, but like extra locks that people put there, like locks that you like the like you know how like you have
Yeah.
like the extra like padlock
Like a
kind of thing.
deadbolt lock.
Yeah, like a deadbolt, exactly. There's deadbolts, and you know, it seemed like the door worked perfectly fine. It was an older door, yeah, but I mean, you had to jimmy the lock a little bit, but to make it lock all the way. But it was just weird that that was there, and it was for a bathroom. And then all the
Right.
other places or all the other doors in the house had that too. And then on one of the doors, for like the biggest room in the house or for the biggest bedroom that's not the back room, um, there was also a lock on the outside that was like a padlock kind of lock. Like you needed a key to open it, and it was open already. Like it's open to be shown. But I remember every time I was in that room, I was like, I want to get out of here. Like I do not want to be in this room. Like and Eddie pointed out everything to me of like, look at this. Like it's literally on every single door in this house. And I just told her, I was like, I don't want to live in this house. I was like, there's a reason that it's up for rent right now. I was like, it's
Yeah.
the middle of the school year. Apparently, like some frat boys did it. Um, but yeah, that's my story for the day. So let's bring it into
Little little spook. Little spooky spooky.
yeah. So let's uh
Uh
let's keep up with the spooky vibes.
yeah, I'm taking that sort of spooky otherness, sweeping it in. So today we're gonna be talking about some hypnagogic phenomena. This is just a really fancy way of saying we're gonna talk about dream shit. Um, Specifically hypnagogic phenomena is like kind of occurs in the space between spaces, right before you fall asleep but you're not fully awake. They also call it threshold consciousness, where can explore a couple different things. Tristan has some anecdotal examples, something that I think is really neat that we talked about earlier this week and is actually what spurred on this podcast, or this episode specifically, anyways. Perhaps you've heard of some of these things before, right? In some like creepy pasta type scenarios, you've got your shadow people. They sit in the corner of the room. They manifest beginning to right as you're beginning to fall into the comfort of sleep, and then suddenly it's there. We've got stuff like that. We've got your hypnic jerks, that sort of feeling that you're falling right before you get to sleep, right? It's the old wives' tale that the angels are picking you up from your bed and then they drop you and you and then you're back. All of these different phenomena that we have old myths and tales for, um, and then are starting to mix in with some of our more modern experiments and research that we're capable of doing. Uh, we already talked about our exploding head syndrome. That is one of that's a hypnagogic phenomena. Another one that we're going to talk about that ties in with this study is lucid dreaming. I personally cannot lucid dream. It's happened by accident maybe twice ever in my life. Lucid dreaming, for those who don't know, is dreaming but being fully conscious while doing so. It's not like somebody is playing out the events for you. You have an active hand on what happens in your dream. Tristan, on the other hand, is capable of lucid dreaming. He has some experience in that field, whereas I do not. Um, And this sort of plays into one of the, or really the headliner for our dream phenomena this evening, uh, an almost creepy pasta esque thing, a figure that's come to be known amongst the community of people that experience it as the Hat Man. Tristan, go ahead and tell us what you know and what your experience has been with the Hat Man.
Okay. So while I water my succulent real quick, just because I see it kind of dying. Um, so the Hat Man. I'll start off with my personal anecdote about the Hat Man, and then kind of devolve into what the phenomenon is. And then we can get into theories, and then we can kind of get into history of both lucid dreaming and the Hat Man. Um, so I was like 16 or 17 years old. Um, I was closing in on the peak of my depression, and it was a very, very dark time for young Tristan Velasquez. Um, I remember the dream started off kind of like, I guess, a normal dream. You know, normal dreams can be really fucking weird, but it was still normal. Um, my dad's dog, or I guess our family dog, Alfred, um, was being chased through the streets of like some Asian marketplace at like nighttime. And he was being scared by this little demon looking thing uh, that didn't like scare me or my dad who was chasing him, chasing Alfred, that is, but it scared the shit out of Alfred. And so, you know, ran all through the marketplace. And then, you know, as dreams do, we jump cut. We jump cut. We're at my parents' old house, my childhood home, and my mom and my dad are talking about everything going on in the kitchen, or everything going on with like, oh, Alfred was being chased through Tokyo because of some little demon, right? Like, you know, we were just catching my mom up on what was happening, and our house is very open concept. So although they were in or not in the living room, although they were in uh, the kitchen and dining area, I was on our stairwell and I was looking straight up the stairwell up to the upstairs, and I see that little demon creature thing looking back at me, and I was pissed at it because I was like, "You just scared the shit out of my dog," and so I run up the stairs, and everything changes. Like the mood changes. You know, of course, the scenery wasn't my upstairs. It was a an office building of some sort, and I remember I remember it vividly. Like the carpet was gray, the walls were gray, but on the walls there were doors, and then the doors had like mirrors on them or some sort of reflective surface on them, and like even the sky, like I remember it just like kind of went on into infinity. Um, and I I remember I was like, okay, I need a lucid dream. All throughout growing up, my mom, uh, while my mom was growing up, and to this day, she still has a dream about the devil uh, trying to take her. And it's literally every night since she was 14, she's had this dream, and so she prays the rosary. And the only way that she could get herself to pray the rosary was by learning how to lucid dream. And so, since I was little, because I would have a lot of nightmares, um, my mom taught me how to lucid dream. And so, at this point, you know, I was 17 years old. I have pretty much 17 years of lucid dreaming under my belt. So, immediately I go and start lucid dreaming. I was like, I need to take control. I was like, something's off. And I remember I was walking down the hallway, and on each side, you know, I remember hearing a laugh. Like it started like as a low, not guttural laugh. I mean, like it was guttural, but it was almost like the volume was low on the laugh. And I was looking to my sides and at the doorways where the mirror for like the reflection was, rather than me being like, you know, whenever there's like a vampire movie and then they do the old gag of the vampire walks by the mirror and there's no reflection of him, but like, you know,
Right.
the camera follows him kind of thing. It was like that, But standing in the reflection was this guy in a large brim hat and a trench coat, and it was all black. And but like he looked three-dimensional. Uh, but like I didn't see myself in the mirror. Like like a camera movement, I felt like I was an invisible camera. And that Hat Man, or that would we would later know him as, was the one that's just standing there. And he was in every single mirror that I passed. And again, I wasn't showing up in these mirrors. It was just me walking and like trying to figure out what the hell was going on. And as I was walking forward through the hallway, the laugh got louder and louder and louder and just more and more menacing. And so finally, I started running. I was like, I need to get down this hallway. I need to figure out what the fuck's at the end of this. And I get to the end, and at this point, the laugh is piercing. It's like it's low. It's like that low piercing where like you can feel your eardrums like just full like filling out kind of thing.
Would you say that it felt like your head was exploding?
Yeah, it's honestly what it ended up being. My head exploded at the end.
Huh.
No, but I get to the very end of the hallway, and I'm facing another mirror. But now uh, rather than like him just standing there and laughing, he was doing that, but he just felt familiar to me. And as I moved, he would move, and he was mimicking me. And slowly but surely, he brought his head up. And when he brought his head up, I saw his face, or I saw his face. His face was my face. And that's what really, like, that's the image that sticks with me the most.
His
Is
face was my face too.
Yeah, it was
Whenever we
Jean-Claude
go
Van
out,
Damme.
the people
Yeah,
always show.
there goes
John Jacob.
Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
But no, it freaked me out so much so that I like punched through the mirror or whatever it ended up being, and ended up being a window, and I was over this like busy skyscraper, or skyscape, whatever. And
Skyline.
yeah, it was, but it's at nighttime, and he was still floating there, and he still had my face, and he was still laughing at me. And I woke up and I told my mom about it. My mom, who's had this dream of the devil every single night since she was 14, I was
Mm-hmm.
describing it to her. I was describing the laugh. And then she finished my sentence with the laugh, like to the T.
How you
And
felt?
yeah. And she was like, I think that was the devil. She's like, that I know that laugh. I know exactly which laugh you're talking about. We don't really talk about it too much anymore. More recently because I've been digging. Um, but a
This was your
few,
first experience with the Hat Man, correct?
yes. And a few months
Have,
later, at this point, I had only told my mom about my experience, my dream. I was walking
okay.
around my neighborhood with my friend, and we were just having like, it was like 9 p.m. and we're walking around the neighborhood just having deep talk. And she was like, "Oh, I forgot to mention. Um, the other night I had this dream, and I walked into this house, and there's a guy with a long brimmed hat and a trench coat, and he started laughing. And as he was laughing, he started turning towards me. And she's like, I got scared whenever I saw his face, so I woke up." And she was like, his face felt familiar. She was like, I don't remember, what his face looked like, but it felt familiar. And
His face was my face too.
his face was my face too. And that it sat me down. It sat me down on the curb. Like I sat me on my ass, literally. And I knew that my mom didn't tell anybody about that. Like, it was one of those like untold or unsaid promises to not say anything about it. And I hadn't told anybody else about it because I was so scared by it. And to hear that, was just crazy. And so a few years later, um, I see that one of my other cousins, not the one that's with me now, posts something about like, oh, I didn't know this was a phenomenon, and it's this link to a website about the Hat Man.
Okay.
And I read up, and I was like, that's him. That's who I saw. Like, I know that that's what I saw.
That's
And
the man.
so I added to uh, I added myself onto the subreddit r/Hatman and started reading through the stories. And some of them were like, you kind of seem like you're like chasing for clout or whatever, or
Chasing
like,
that sweet, sweet hat man clout.
yeah, just the nice panache.
Bro, I passed out last night ever having 47 White Claws, and I saw a dude with a snapback in my dream, and he made me shit myself. I'm
That's
so
pretty much,
scared.
yeah, that's pretty much what some of them were. But there are others that are eerily similar to mine. Um, I'm the only one that has seen their own face on his face
The only one that you know of.
that I know of. Right. This community is made up of, I want to say for sure, over 1,200 people, and that's
Okay,
just for the subreddit.
correct.
I found Facebook groups which have many, many more, and it's not just 20-something-year-olds. It's people in their 60s and 70s who are saying like, no, I had this. Because one of the things that people there was a YouTube video out about it, and they're like, oh, it's basically just nightmares from Nightmare on Elm Street. But if you go and they talked to the creator of Nightmare on Elm Street, he said that he was inspired by his dream of the Hat Man. Um,
Mm.
and so people, including myself, have started going into both the mystical and the more psychological reasonings behind this. So, it's happened so often throughout history. Even there have been tales that that people have seen him even back in like Nordic times, back with the Vikings, and so a bunch of people believe that it was Odin who would visit them in his cloak and hat.
In his hood.
Yeah, but the hood was always
Okay.
very wide brimmed, and then he had a cloak on.
Interesting. So
And
this is
like,
a reoccurring figure.
yeah,
There's a established community of people who have shared this experience,
exactly.
yourself included among them.
Hmm.
I have not, which is I think why I find it all the more interesting. Um, these dream phenomena are super, super, super intriguing to me. Um, I know many people that I've spoken to as far as dream experiences that they have. Um, Many people have experienced deja vu, where they say they have a dream and that exact moment will play out at some point later in their life. I've had similar experiences. Many people say they've been visited by loved ones in their dreams after their passing or just before their passing, even. Um, I think there's a lot that we have yet to understand about dreams, which makes it all the more just gripping. You want to know.
Hmm.
It's in our nature to know. So the fact that there's a community all around this one figure of this hypnagogic phenomena is really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
so a lot of people see him either in their dreams or in their sleep paralysis. Um,
yes, the space between spaces, the threshold consciousness.
yeah, exactly. Um, for like I said, for me, it was a dream, and it was, I don't know, like it's one of those things. It's a feeling that you can never shake. Um, One of our other theories, rather than this primordial god, um,
Our
it,
being this community, this Hatman community.
yes, um, is maybe it's like a pure, like a being that we've created in our head to represent anger or rage or fear. Um, as I've done more reading, it seems that people have seen the Hat Man, but with different, as silly as it sounds, but with different hats. Uh, and like mainly of like different style long brimmed hats. Like some is like more of a boiler hat kind of style. Others are more like the Japanese style. And sometimes it's not even like 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 how Raiden has his, like from Mortal
Yes.
Kombat, uh,
Right.
which is more of like a Japanese style.
Right.
They won't even be from Japan. They'll be from like Sweden or something like that, and it's an international phenomenon as well. Um,
Interesting.
I'm currently in talks with a guy, actually that guy from Sweden, um, or I think it's another dude. But either way, there's multiple people around the world,
Sharing this same experience
but
where they
with
say,
slightly different tales, where like how they look. But the one thing that we've all experienced was there are some people who had near death experiences that happened to them, and then on that same day that the near death experience happened, they were visited by the Hat Man. Um,
okay,
People who lived in anger, like myself, for a very long time, and it was very, very deep seated anger, and he was manifested. The Hat Man was manifested. People who lived in fear because of abusive households, um, and any negative feeling seems to bring, but a it has to be like a very, very strong negative feeling. It can't just be like, oh, I have, not try to downplay anything, but like, I have a bad day or something like that. And so, I'm going to see the Hat Man. No, it's like, to be clear with y'all, I was very, very angry, sun up, sun down, go to sleep, wake up, just enraged for 6 months straight at the very least, every single day. I mean, I've been to a therapist now, and I've sought help, and I've gotten help, and I've been helping myself since then. Uh, but during that time was when I saw the Hat Man, or I think it was maybe even right before it. Um, and
have you, I don't mean to interrupt, but
no, go
have you
ahead,
had
go
any
ahead.
experiences since with the Hat Man, or was it just that period of your life?
It was mainly that period of my life that I had uh, just that one encounter. I've always grown up around the paranormal stuff just because my family seems to be attuned to it. Ever
Okay.
since I was little, I saw an angel. Most peaceful moment of my entire life. I can still remember the exact feeling. Um, I've uh, I've personally I've never seen a demon, unless of course Hat Man was a demon, or it turns out to be a demon. Uh, but I know I've been in the presence of evil. It's a very, very disgusting feeling, very gross feeling. Um, you know, Not to get too religious here, but I don't know what faith is because I've always known that something else was there. Because I've been around these other things. So like, maybe I don't know how God looks. I don't know who God
When
is,
you
or if what's up.
when you say you don't know what faith is, what do you mean?
As in like, uh, so Sam, you've never had any sort of experience like this, as in like, um, when people say seeing is believing, right? Of like when it comes to their argument of God or some sort of deity, they say seeing is believing. So if they saw something that represented God, um, then they would believe. But a lot of the main Christian thing is faith, or uh, main idea behind any religion is faith. The faith that
Walk,
this is an actual thing. Like, although I do
walk,
not see it or perceive it myself, I believe in it. Right?
walk by faith, not by sight. Yeah.
Exactly. I've never had the fortune to do that. I've always known that something was there. So, when people say seeing is believing, for me, I don't know what to tell them because I'm like, I have seen. I know that something's there. And like I said, it has its pluses of like, oh, I know something's there, but then it has its negatives as well of, oh, I know something's there. Because most of the time, I encounter more bad things or lost spirits, if you will, than I do like angels or whatnot. Like I said, I've met an
Okay.
angel, or not even like met like face to face, but I've seen an angel one time. Uh, but I've mainly come into contact with like spirits and, like once a demon, or what I believe was a demon, because I've never felt anything that evil before.
Interesting. Okay. Again, like you said, you're true in saying it. I've never had an experience like that. I've never seen something that I could say outright I would classify as an angel or a demonic presence or anything of that nature. I've been around people that I consider to be that God has placed in my life for my benefit. And I've been, if you can't tell, I am religious. Um, and I've been around people that I think are plagued by something that is, greater than our normal human struggles. But I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't necessarily um, classify either of those as either angelic or demonic. That just was.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I can't really speak on it beyond that. But it's so fascinating that we, have these experiences, and that we sort of our brain wants to prescribe or um, sort of assign something to it to make it make sense, because we have to make it make sense. That's how our brains operate. We want a cause for the effect, a reason for the outcome. um, it's very interesting, especially with dreams and dream phenomena. We've been studying that as a people at as early as we have documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Dreaming has been very central to a lot. Speaking of faith, a lot of our um, more common religions now, Hinduism has yoga nidra. I'm probably pronouncing that entirely incorrectly, but yoga nidra is specifically tied to ascertaining a higher spiritual level of understanding through dreaming and through lucid dreaming, um, because Buddhism takes a lot of its influence from Hinduism. Buddhists have a similar practice that just translates to dream yoga. I won't even try to butcher the Tibetan pronunciation. This is it was incredibly common for them, even among ancient Greeks. Aristotle often wrote about dreaming, with one of his quotes being, "Often when one is asleep, there is something in consciousness which declares that what then presents itself is but a dream." So all of that to say that it becomes hard to sort of divide this line, right? Um, what is our brain, producing in order to make sense of the things around us and what is real? It's very, very intriguing, especially with dreams. That's why this Hat Man phenomena is so interesting to me. Shadow people also are interesting to me. Never had experience with one, but I think, especially with modern research, as we continue to get further and further into dreams, we begin to understand more and more of what was once a sort of locked away topic. It was all very subjective, our experiments and research that we could do, because you would really just wait until somebody woke up and be like, "Tell me everything that just happened." And there's no empirical data that we can really pull from that, from a testimony. But as we're beginning to discover very, very recently, actually, which is really cool, um, they're able to get people to respond while in REM sleep, which is our deepest
Mm-hmm.
stage of sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and it's when we're most actively dreaming. Our body's recharging, and our brain is just it's just free spinning. It's all going. That's when we dream. They're getting people that are able to respond in this state. They'll ask them basic math questions like, "What's 5 plus 3?" And then during this rapid eye movement, they're able to pick up on the question while asleep and respond by moving their eyes back and forth 8 times. Right, left, right, left, right, left. Um, we're just now breaking into this territory. So it means there's a way to get people to actively respond during the stream. We can find out more and more data as it's occurring rather than after the fact, where it can be muddled by the sort of dream amnesia. You know, you can remember a really weird dream right when you wake up, but sometimes later in the day you're trying to recall it and it just doesn't click anymore.
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a very interesting time to be getting into dreams, right? Much more than your run of the mill like Sigmund Freud type stuff. Like just something something cocaine, something something. Everybody wants to find somebody that looks like their parents to have sex with.
Yeah, sure.
Freud, my
Right.
guy. Freud, my guy. You do enough coke, and I'm sure I'd probably be saying the same stuff too.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a hell of a drug.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Uh, but yeah, the dream stuff is, like I said, super interesting. I've never had a Hatman experience like Tristan. I did mention briefly that I had a deja vu esque experience. Not in the typical way where something happened exactly as I remembered it, but it was more, it's going to sound crazy, but predictive in nature.
Mm.
I had a dream about one of my grandmothers, that she was bit by a cobra, and I came running and I heard her in my room. And right as I busted through the door, she says at the top of her voice, she goes, "Shit." And I wake up right away. And it's as vivid today as it was when I had that dream, probably close to 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago. Um, she came into town 2 weeks later. We're in the car, all sitting around together. And in the same tone of voice, she's talking with my mom and she says, "Shit." And my head snaps up right away. And I ratchet straight to her. And sure enough, on the radio is a song by a group called Cobra. It's just like the one that I saw latched onto her chest. I don't know what that means. It's just, I know that I dreamt it. 2 weeks later, she was in town and that happened. But I think that's part of what makes dreams so interesting. How does our brain make these connections? You know, how do you explain something like that? It's, sometimes things can be explained away, I think. Like, if you are very much a facts and logic based person, you're not religious, if you're very science based, um, especially with relatives that come and visit you after they've passed away. If you've had an experience like that in a dream, my grandfather did after he passed away. Um,
As
my
with mine.
grandfather, my grandfather passed away on December 12th, 13 days before Christmas, and then 1 week later, which made about a week before Christmas. I was very sad that he wasn't going to be there that year. Um, I was always so excited to have him because they would always visit. And I had a dream that I woke up on Christmas Day and I ran out to go see the Christmas tree, and I was the only one awake and no presents under the tree. But my grandfather was sitting on the couch that we had right next to the Christmas tree, and he still had his oxygen tank, he still had his glasses, and he was as weak as I remembered him right before he had passed. And he had a short conversation with me, basically telling me, I'm okay. I'm better now than I was last time that you saw me, and this is for the better. He gets up, he leaves his oxygen tank and his glasses on the table, and he walks out the front door looking as young as he did when he was probably 25, 30 years old. I think stuff like that can be explained away. It's probably my brain trying to make me feel better about losing somebody that I cared about very much.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cobra situation, your Hatman situation, and having a shared dream like that, a communal shared dream, there's so little that we know and so much that's still yet to be found out, which I think is what makes it so fascinating. Um,
I mean, even in current like fictional world, um, with stories and whatnot, we still consider it a dream world. It's almost like an alternate universe. I mean, there's some theories that um uh that like the universe that like as we dream we go into an alternate universe and we can see into these alternate timelines, if you will, and see how other things are playing out somewhere else. So like, you know that means hypothetically, you could be somebody else's dream, or you could be your own dream but in somebody else's timeline. um you know and that's so it's really trippy to
are you
think
gonna
about.
pass the joint or not?
Yeah, right. The one of the leading things, or one of the leading hypothesis in for the Hatman theory, uh, which is very surprising, is the simulation theory, where we're all in a simulation and Hatman is like the workers for whoever is holding the simulation, and they're coming in um, and like kind of making repairs, or like you're getting too close to figuring something out, kind of thing.
It's the big government, man. You got to wake up and fight the
Yeah,
power, dog. You're
yeah.
the chosen one, man. Pick the red pill, dog. Wake up.
And I I'm open to every option because at this point, like Sam was saying, we don't know anything when it comes to the dream world or anything within that. So I'm open to it, but it's not my primary hypothesis. Um, Sam, at least for the Hatman situation, what are your thoughts? What are your theories even?
So we're already getting to a little weird, territory. I kind of like it. I kind of want to lean
Mhm.
into it a little bit more. So I'm going to take you back. I did this to Tristan the other day.
Right.
For those of you who are listening, I'm going to take you back. If you're not currently at an age where you would be in this setting, I'm going to put you back in that place. Close your eyes with me. Lean back in your chair. Unless you're driving, don't close your eyes. Don't lean back. Continue to drive, please.
No, do it.
Lean back and put yourself back in your world history class.
Oh,
You know what?
wow.
Better yet, put yourself in my world history class. I had a fantastic teacher. Her name was Miss Becker. Miss Becker was awesome. So we're in Miss
Annotations.
Becker's. We're in Miss Becker's class together, and Miss Becker is introducing world history to us, the beginning of human history as we know it, the beginning of human civilizations. We are roughly 10 to 15,000 years ago. So the reason I mention this is how this connects into the dreams, right? 10 to 15,000 years ago, even though humans have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, within the same 2 to 5,000 year period, we, as a race of, as the human race, all innovated agriculture in this same time period. After hundreds of thousands of years of being hunter gatherers, all across the globe, within this very, in the grand scheme of things, short time frame, just like that. The Indus River Valley, your Mesopotamian River Valley, Huanghe. I also believe across the globe and in the Americas,
Mhm.
um, they all, in this time frame, begin to settle down, make civilizations, and become agriculturally based societies rather than hunter gatherers. This is an independent but concurrent um, innovation that they make. The reason I bring this up is I think possibly, um, this Hatman phenomena could be a similar development. I don't know
Mhm.
if it's exactly the same, but this idea that maybe there's something very, very primal in our brains that has a shared functionality, right? This sort of shared click that we have, and I don't know why it would be a select group of people. I don't know what clues you into it or what doesn't. Perhaps it's the anger that you're talking about. um, but all of the around the same time, you're all experiencing this shared experience, this shared vision, this shared dream with this shared character. uh, I I'm drawing a connection between the two because I believe that's where one might be.
Mhm.
Um, but again, I'm no professional, not on dreams, not on psychology, not on anything. This whole podcast has just been me as a sort of armchair psychologist taking my best shot in the dark
I mean, that's all
at
we can really
these,
do at this point.
right, at these incredibly dense topics. None of this should be taken at face value. If you find yourself more interested in what we're talking about, do your own research.
Yeah.
Find people that are professionals and contact them. Please do.
And maybe even one day we'll be lucky enough to have a professional in this field, specifically about dreams, and we can kind of shoot back to this podcast and
I would love to have a rehash of this one day, and I'd love to
Yeah.
have. We mentioned it very early on in this episode, but we'd love to have your input as well. If you
Mhm.
have an experience, if specifically if you have the Hatman experience, please let Tristan know ASAP.
Yeah.
Um,
Right now on r/Hatman, we we as a community are talking about like actually actively trying to solve what this is and not trying to just be like, oh, it's because of Nightmare on Elm Street. Whenever uh there's stories that back uh in BC times that the Hat Man has been around. So he's been around for possibly thousands of years. Um, and what does that say about the human? Because my thing is, I would rather this coming theory, the theory that I'm about to say, be true than something as in Odin comes to visit me in my dreams for some odd reason. Because that's kind of terrifying to think that some god, some deity comes and it's like, oh, guess who's still alive? Um, I
guess who's back?
I think I think it is. I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. I think it is almost a literal figment of our imagination, where it's how we perceive anger, and um, for some odd reason, at like the most primal part of our brain, we all see anger or hate or just negativity as this one being. And when we get to a breaking point or a turning point or just go through it long enough, maybe it gets us closer to seeing him or seeing it as an anger or negativity, um, as what it is, or at least as what we've always perceived it as. Um, I don't know. I do think I would like to lean more on the psychological part where this isn't really a real thing. It's something that we've created within our own mind. Uh, but like I said earlier, I can't count anything out. Maybe we all do live in a simulation, uh, and it's trying to pick out the next Neo kind of thing, or maybe it is Zeus or Odin or some sort of deity from a long forgotten past. Um, who knows? Uh, but if you have any theories, any thoughts on this, as Sam said, and as we both said earlier in the episode, let us know. Let me know. The more information, the better. Because if you really did have a Hatman experience, but wasn't really going through anything, which has been rare, if not, I've never seen it. Um, I
Let
would
me
love to
know.
know so that we can kind of debunk other theories that we have about it.
As a hard split off, real quick, I want to say it is objectively hilarious that if it is some sort of god that's just visiting you in your dream, this sort of, primal being, that the dude would elect to be like, yes, my best outfit is a fedora and a trench coat.
Let me look. Let me look like what's that? The Silver Shroud on Fallout 4, and have just a
I
trench
wish to
coat.
be a Reddit neckbeard.
Dude, no, that was kind of the creepy thing. So like I said, I've been I told you about it. Um, but I've been really involved in this Hatman community now. And last night, I had to go pick up Addie from the observatory.
Uh-oh.
And on our way back, the observatory here is like a good 15 minutes out into the middle of nowhere. So I picked her up, and it was me, my cousin, and her, and we drove back. And once we got into town, there was this dude on a bike, and he like a bicycle. He wasn't cool enough to have a motorcycle.
Okay.
Uh, and he had a trench coat and a long brimmed hat. And I remember it like it stopped me in my fucking tracks. Like as I was driving, I like froze. I got this like innate fear just by seeing that, knowing good and damn well like it's probably just some neckbeard trying to get home from his uh you know 9 to 5 job.
I don't I don't know why my brain is wired this way, but as soon as you said it stopped you dead in your tracks, I just pictured this neckbeard whipping around and fucking pulling out some Little Wayne bars. Hello, motherfucker. Hey, hi, how you doing? It's Wheezy F Diddy. Come to.
How do I hang up a podcast?
Uh, you know what? We'll get to the end for you pretty soon. Then
There you go.
we're going to we're going to make a call back to a classic from the very first episode. This is what I'm drinking tonight. It's Screwball, baby.
And it is also what I'm drinking. This may look darker. It has Screwball in it. It is Screwball. If you weren't around for the first episode, uh, is
Tristan is having the grown man's Reese's.
yes, Screwball is a peanut butter whiskey, and then Sam actually recommended to me to add chocolate stout, right? Chocolate stout to it.
Mm.
It's extremely sweet. I've been sipping on this thing for it's 10:30 now. Been sipping on this bad boy since at least 9. It's
It is
really
very
really
sweet.
sweet. It's pretty strong, at least how I made it. I did a shot and a half of the whiskey, and then I filled this bad boy to the brim with the stout.
Also, speaking of Screwball, we did
Oh,
an interview quite a while back that we briefly touched on in one of our podcasts. The interview was part of a documentary that the wonderful Abby Smith, correct?
yes, correct.
Abby Smith put together. It is now up on YouTube. We're going to drop that in the description below when this is uploaded.
I remember to do
Um,
that.
please go watch that. Give her some views and attention. Let her know that you came from us. Um, and this, Abby, this is for you. Thank you again so much for having us on, and fantastic work on the little
Yeah.
documentary. It's less than 10 minutes. Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. Please go watch it.
I
Um,
the their name uh leaves me right now. But the other podcast it's featured in it. Oh my
oh my
goodness.
goodness gracious. There's two other ones, I believe, right?
Here, hold on. It's called Doing It Best with the Rest. They are an up and coming podcast as well. And they, if I remember correctly, uh, just kind of like to give people from our neck of the woods, as in age wise.
Right. Our age group, right?
There you
Our
go.
sort of age bracket. Us damn Gen Zers that try
Yeah.
to give us a voice and talk about topics that are relevant to us.
Are we Gen
If you
Z?
happen to see this, members, yes,
Oh,
unfortunately. If you happen to see this, Doing It Best with the Rest podcast, we would love to collab with y'all.
yes.
We'll probably be reaching out at some point. I'm going to get y'all's contact from Abby, hopefully. It would be fantastic to do some shit with y'all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um,
But yeah,
Also, sorry to interrupt you. Hopefully next week. Right now, it's in the works. We got work with some schedule things, but we'll have the interviewer herself, Abby Smith, on a either next week or sometime soon podcast.
yes. She's a fantastic, just a fantastic personality, very easy to talk to and get along with. Y'all would love her.
Mhm.
Really hastily, we're just going to sort of stumble into this. This is why we clink, and the first reason that we're clinking is a super big one. This is to Abby getting that little mini doc done, and it's fantastic. So this one's for Abby.
Mm. Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
uh, uh, uh.
Oh,
Tristan,
I
what's
started
another
my
reason
mouth
we're
as well.
clinking? House hunting.
Oh, my parents bought a boat. Yeah, like a boat.
Like a boat.
Yeah, it was crazy. So my dad was out of the hospital at this point. I think I touched on that the last podcast. He's doing great now. Um, he had a he had a he had two kidney stones. One went through and ripped up his entire urinary tract, and then the other one was a 9 millimeter sized kidney stone stuck in his kidney. We had the running joke that he had another 9 millimeter stuck in him because he's been shot in his arm before, and he has a 9 millimeter bullet stuck in his arm, or at least the remnants of one. Um, but yeah, no, he's doing good. And on one of his recovery days, we went out just to go get beer and a lunch. I mean, hell, I was the only one drinking because he was still recovering. And then this dude goes and like DMs him on Facebook and is like, "Hey, remember that boat that you're interested in? If you can get here by 7 p.m." And here was in Austin, which is about an hour and a half north from where we live. Um, if you can get here by 7 p.m. and beat the guy that's coming from fucking Oklahoma,
Right.
then the boat's yours. And, as long as you have the cash with you. And so,
Word.
we book it up there. We had to go and buy a trailer hitch because my dad has a new truck and before that he had an Audi. So there was no need for a trailer hitch. So we got a trailer hitch. And then we had to get the cash. And then it was a much further drive than we thought it was going to be because he was around a lake kind of thing. Get there. He's just weird looking. He looks like the villain at the very beginning of like a Superman TV show or like a Batman TV show where like it jumps into him beating a villain and then he's like, curse you, Batman. And then it goes into like
villain.
Yeah, the disposable villain. Exactly. He looks like that. He's got like one platform shoe because I guess his leg, like one of his legs was longer than the other.
Okay.
And
So he permanently had sea legs.
yes. And he was a very odd man. Very, very odd man.
So long story short, you bought a boat from a disposable Superman villain and it went well.
Yeah, the shitty thing is that not until we left did he tell the Oklahoma dude. We left at like 6:30. So that means he was pretty much in the area at this point. And then he has to show up and then is told, sorry, just sold the boat. So yeah.
Clink to getting a boat for y'all. Sorry about that other fella.
Yeah, I felt really bad.
Yeah.
Because my dad was like pissed about it too. Like he was like cursing the entire way home. That was a hell of a drive too. We had to drive to Marble Falls and then drive down south.
Marble Falls is really pretty though. I've been to Marble Falls a handful of times.
Not when your trailer lights don't work because the plug wouldn't reach all the way to there. And we had a boat that we're not used to towing.
Did the trailer lights not working make all the scenery ugly?
We couldn't appreciate the scenery because we were scared for our lives because it was quickly getting dark. We got to this point called Travis Peak, and apparently it's one of the highest points in Central Texas. And my dad and I are like, why are we here?
Because God has willed it.
Yeah. My dad and I get into like a lot of crazy adventures. Next time on some other podcast, whenever it comes up, I'll talk about the time that we met the Yakuza.
The Adventures of Israel and Tristan.
But Sam, what are you clinging to?
I am clinking to my possible lead with the voice stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's very, very exciting. I can't talk about it too much right now. I don't want to get too worked up in case it doesn't go through. But right now, very exciting.
Oh yeah.
So clink to that. And with that, I think we have wrapped up episode number
10. Oh, this is the centennial. That's not centennial. It's just I like the word because 10.
The tentennial.
The tentennial. Yes. Thanks for listening to the Duck Boys podcast.
We have now concluded this week's episode over dreams and hypnagogic phenomena. If you have managed to hang around this long, thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah.
Hope you're drinking along as well, so long as that's what you like to do. And remember, folks, as always, I'll quack.
No whack. Y'all have a great
All
rest
right,
of your
and
day.
we will see you next week. Much love.
Peace.